Hello and welcome everybody to the latest edition of the Buy Round interview show. Today we are joined by a man who has played over 250 NRL games. He's played for New South Wales and Australia as well. It's none other than Aaron Woods. And also in that, he's won a series with Origin and the World Cup with Australia. So quite the player, quite the career.
Thanks for having us, mate. It's always it's good when people read out what you've done in the game because sometimes you tend to forget. But I've been lucky enough to play for my country and my state and obviously a couple of clubs as well.
Yeah. How are things, Woodsy? It's been an interesting time the past.
Yes.
The fallout from the Charity Shield with the level of performance not up to scratch. People debating whether or not the players should have been allowed to drink after that game. Then an altercation between two players.
Look, obviously, I reckon probably if our standard of play was a little bit better, it wouldn't be as much of a story as what it was. But our performance on the field was pretty disappointing. That was our second opportunity, but I think we played a lot of young guys against St Helens the week before. And then, we played a bit more of a senior squad. And to see how we played and everything we'd worked hard for in the preseason was probably the opposite of what we did. That was probably the biggest disappointment. And then, look, we spoke about it back at a hotel we stayed at. We said we'd have a few beers. I touched about this early in the week. If we do go out, one in, all in, we all stick together. Some blokes chose to drink, some blokes chose not to drink. But we wanted to just try to keep it a little bit, not as loose as what they normally get because, we're in a small country town in Mudgee. We're the main attraction with South Sydney with the game. And, look, the timing we thought was okay because we weren't playing for another 3 weeks, which is round 2, the Sunday night 6:30 game is when our first real competition game is. And we had a bit of time off this week. So we thought we'd get around each other. But, like I said, things escalated a little bit. As a group, we've got to take full ownership of it. Other blokes that probably were there at the situation, myself, I was at the pub with the boys, probably should have, toned it down a bit. I spoke the week before about telling, Caleb Ponga to grow up. I think we need to grow up ourselves. And, we've been in the media for all the wrong things. But, at the end of the day, it's all on us. It hasn't really been much that the club's done wrong. It's us as players. We need to, think before we do. And I think that was probably the most disappointing thing. If we had to hand ourselves in a better situation, no one would have knew that we had a few beers that night and nothing would have been reported afterwards.
Well, Jay, I've got a few thoughts on this, which I've relayed this week already. People criticising the fact that the Dragons have gone out. This is one or two people on. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. But it's a very difficult task for management there. So, like you say, you're not playing for such a long time. The group is away. It's a good opportunity to, have a night out together as a team. But then the performance probably wasn't up to standard. So then what do the management do there? They're faced with that dilemma of we've promised.
Yeah.
Or we've said we'd go out. Do we react to that? Some people would say, yeah, well, you react to that and you say no drinks. But however, that said, how does that affect the group? And there'll be people with opinions that say, well, if I was in charge, I would have said this. If I was in charge, I would have said that. And then furthermore, for me, mate, I said this. So if I'm part of the senior leadership team at the Dragons there, next day, coach, team manager, I was last night and yeah, all good. Yeah, we all went out. We came back together. A few had a few drinks in the team room after, and Mika and Zeno got into a bit of a hoo-ha. And then the questions coming from management. Then what do you mean? Fight? No, just a bit of a wrestle. Or anything get broken?
It wasn't even really a fight.
Exactly. So I'm just trying to think about how I'd be explaining it to team management. But for me, the disappointing thing that this has got out.
That's the thing as well. It probably didn't help our circumstances where the wrestle did happen. It was so we stayed at a little motor inn, and it happened out front of the room. Whereas because our team room was sort of locked off when we got back, so that was probably the hard part. And where we were staying was there's a lot of other people there as well. It wasn't just the Dragons team. And as you said, the thing about our club as well is what it's different to a lot of other clubs is a lot of blokes live down Wollongong area, and then a lot live up in Cronulla, as you know when you were there, Jimmy. So to get a time where we're all together in one area, we thought it was just a really good time to let our hair down a little bit. Obviously, the performance we had earlier that day wasn't up to scratch. We were quite disappointed, which we understand, but it's a trial as well, and the same thing. We didn't get any injuries, so we got through the trial. We're pretty happy with that. That we're not going to miss anyone for round one. We get Bird back. We should get DeBellum back as well. But the biggest thing is because we've been in the media, throughout the off season, with all the stuff that's happened with the coach, we have a really poor performance, and then this happens. We just got to be better as players. Like you said, it's disappointing that it got out. We don't know how it got out. If it was someone from the local community that's rung up or whatnot.
Well, I don't think it is anyone from the local community because I think the headline and the story would be included.
Yeah, true.
So it sort of tends to suggest that this has come from within the ranks.
Yeah, well, that's probably the more disappointing thing then.
Yeah,
because as a group, we were one in all in. Everyone was there, so it doesn't matter if you weren't there or not. At the start of the night, we're all together. So whatever happens, we're a whole group. We're all united. So if there's going to be a punishment, or if there was a punishment, it's not just two blokes that get punished; it's everyone because we're all out. And like I said, that's probably hurts the most. Is it's probably if it has come from inside the group, because everything we did that weekend was awesome. The hotel people, the hotel staff, the owner there, they loved having us. They go, even after all that stuff happened in the morning, when we were leaving that day on the bus, they were like, "Oh, I hope to see you guys again next year. Hope you stay at this hotel." So the boys left a good mark, but just that one little incident at early hours in the morning, which we got to be better. And like I said before, we need to grow up and we need to own what happened. And we got to stop getting the Dragons in the media for bad things, and we got to start winning games and start talking about the good things that happen at the club.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you this: do you think the Dragons are an easy target because of just how big a club they are? Do you think it's an?
Well, that's one thing I didn't. Before I went to the club, I didn't realize how big the brand is. It's such a, the St George side is one of the most premierships in the rugby league competition, ARL, and then when you combine it with the Illawarra Steelers, that region's so big, and like it's you hear of it. Oh, this brand's big, that brand's big, but it's actually a massive brand that we're working and playing for, and like I said, like it's something we need to take on more ownership, is because it's not just it's what you're wearing on your chest whenever you're out in public. A lot of people say, "Oh, we just play footy for a living." Yeah, that's true. But it's also what we do away from the field. We're getting judged on, how we turn up to, school visits, if we've got the right uniform, how we handle ourselves at coffee shops. Even when we don't have the Dragons emblem on us, it's still with us. So as a group, myself included, we need to pick up our standards, because at the moment, I've heard a lot of media outlets, they're saying we're the laughing stock, and, that's one thing you don't want to be, and people are questioning our culture, questioning our leadership at the club, and that's probably the most disappointing thing for us.
Yeah, well, again, like going back to the point about the Dragons being an easy target, like people are tipping them for the spoon this year, despite the fact that last year you had a 12-12 record, which gets you into the playoffs.
Most years, it does.
Most years, or it's sort of that benchmark of you want to try and win more than you lose, obviously.
Yeah, that's it.
But
we win one or two more games, we're in the 8 and you're nearly in the 6th position.
Yeah,
the competition is that close, and you can't have hiccups. You've been around the NRL, Jimmy. There's a win or 2 wins is the difference between top 4 and top 8.
Yeah, and it's those. If you're reviewing the season, you can look back at all sorts of different things, 100%. But you just go, boys, if we fix those moments, fix those games.
There's 2 games that come to mind last year.
Yeah.
We got beat by Gold Coast Titans in Magic Round in Golden Point. We win that, we basically are in the 8. And there's another game against Brisbane Broncos. I think they had like 8 or 9 blokes out, and we just Tony Staggs put on a clinic that game, and that was probably another missed opportunity for us. And if we had we're coming 5th or 6th there, because our for and against wasn't too bad. So that's we talk about missed opportunities, but every club can say that.
Yeah,
and that's the difference. But when you do get linked with the wooden spoon, it can be, frustrating as a group, but it also can drive you too.
Well, I was going to say, all the group talking about this and saying, boys, let's shut these people up. Yes. And the only way to shut the noise down, turn the volume down, is by winning games.
And that's what's really frustrating at the moment. We've got the bye round one. So especially after the performance we did against South Sydney and Charity Shield, the first thing you want to do, yourself, the best thing that can happen to the side of that is getting the.
You want a 5-day turn.
You'd be happy to play the next day.
Yeah.
But we've got to go the opposite way. We've got to wait nearly 3 weeks for our next opportunity. So, whichever 17 that Hook does pick, they're going to be stinging. We went to train on Tuesday and the boys were hurting. You can tell it's not just one of those where people think we don't care. We watched the review and it was so disappointing. Some of the things we did in that game, like not just playing wise, but just some of our setups and what we did, it was completely different to what we trained. And the reasons behind it, I'm not too sure. But our next opportunity to change that is when we play against Gold Coast round 2, because if we put another performance like that, we'll be all over the media and we don't want that to be happening.
And I think, you want players to care, and there was no one that looked like they cared more than young Tyrell Sloan at the end of that game. Like, he was brought to tears. Like, that's someone that cares about his contribution, his level of performance, the effect that errors have on the team. Like, I think it's a good sign.
Exactly. You don't want people walking off the field laughing. That's one of my big pet hates, when blokes are high-fiving. And, I'm one of those guys, if I lose, I just want to get straight in the sheds and, put your hoodie on and walk straight to the team bus and go home. I don't like to be seen. It takes me a couple of hours to get over it after a game. And, to see him absolutely devastated, it means that he's got pride in his performance. Yep. There was probably a couple of high balls that if he had his time again, he might have stayed on the ground to try to take it and not jump in the air. But he's a young kid, and they're all the learning experience he's going to go through the next couple of years. I played with James Tedesco when he was at the Tigers, and to see his development now, what he's at the Roosters, it didn't happen overnight. It took quite a fair bit of time. He played a bit of wing. He went back to reserve grade, come back to first grade. It's a really hard position to knuckle down. And, Sloaney's not just attack-wise. He's got to, get our defensive numbers right. He's got to pop up in right time, right places. For a young kid, he's come back in pre-season in really good shape. He's a lot of question marks. Was he going to be at the club? Was he not going to be at the club prior to our pre-season? If I was going to say one bloke that's probably had the best pre-season, I reckon it would be him. He's come back. He's put some weight on. He spoke to the coaching staff about what he needed to get better at, what he needed to do. And one of the big things was developing his body. And he's worked really hard on that. He's been winning the fitness with Zachy Lomax. In the gym, he's been really strong. So he's just learning on working little things in his game. And as I said, it doesn't happen overnight. But the one thing that I do applaud about him is that he does care about his performance. On Tuesday morning, he's one of the first in there, sitting down with the assistant coaches and our coach, trying to just work on areas of his game where he can just improve those parts a little bit.
Yeah, those are some key ingredients to go to getting the best out of yourself and the best you can perform. You say the Dragons won't be playing round 1.
Yep.
What about the rest of the competition?
Yeah, it's going to be a good. I reckon it's really looking forward. There's some sides that I'm really looking forward to.
I'm saying, will round 1 go ahead?
Oh, with the CBA.
Yes,
gotcha.
Yeah. So Dragons won't play, but will everyone else?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it will. You read the reports. Speak to the delegates at our club. That's probably the last evasive action that we want to take. And I don't think we'll get to that far. From what I heard, V'landys stepped in the other week in one of the meetings that we had, and from all reports from the boys, it's going well. Obviously, nothing's been signed off yet. I think it's getting a lot closer, but they're getting happier, and I think it's starting to come to a resolution, which is what you really want. We don't want to be known as pulling games because it's not going to look good. The fans want to see football.
Do you think the players are being made out to be the bad guys here?
Oh, always, because a lot of people, when you talk to them, say, you just guys want more money and all this. And I think I've spoke about it before on other things I've been on. And we don't want more money. We want, better entitlements for, the women. The women have never had a CBA. And I think that's almost been agreed upon, which is, it's a win for the game. Because I think their minimum wage goes from, some girls are on $3,000 the last couple of years. It goes to $30,000, their minimum wage now, which is... it gives them a few things that they can do now. Like they can take time off work if they've got to. because before they were just taking, pay without leave for a lot of them. So, so it's a hard one. We don't want to. People, even some ex-players have come out and accused us of wanting more money, and we're actually not. When we retire, you get a retirement fund. Your health cover, little things. Because I was talking to Andrew Fafita about it. He's had about 3 or 4 surgeries, and apparently, like I haven't know because I haven't retired yet, but you've only got 12 months to get those surgeries in, and with his rehab on some of those surgeries, he wouldn't be able to fit all of them in 12 months' time.
Yeah.
So he'd have to pay for the ones that are after the 12 months schedule. So they're the little things that we're trying to fight for. And, from the sound of the things, when you talk to your delegates at the club, and I speak to Wade Graham, we go in at Triple M's, and they're getting a lot more confident that, the deal will be, hopefully signed off just before round 1. It's a win for the game, because you don't want, mate, I'm a footy tragic. I want to see footy, and, you want to see everyone in the game getting along. Because at the moment, they were clashing heads for quite a while. It wasn't looking good there for a period. Yeah,
you want it to be a partnership.
Exactly.
Not a deal, and you just the stakeholder group, the players, I think, just want what's fair.
That's it. Yeah, you've been around it, Jimmy. You know yourself, mate. We don't want to be,
you want your working conditions to be fair.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't want to be, say you've practiced something all pre-season because you're told that's a rule, and then they change it last second on you. Yeah. It's hard to, sometimes with your fitness levels and the 6 agains, it changed the whole style of the competition. And we only really had a couple of weeks to fix that up on. So. Even we had some refs come out to training and were like, mate, what rules are we working on this year? And they go, we haven't been 100% finalised yet. Yeah. So, because, it all comes down to what, like you said, the key stakeholders in the game come down to.
Yeah. Well, let's hope you're right and a deal does get signed off, because obviously it's disappointing not to see a season launch go ahead.
Yeah, that's disappointing, yep.
But, let's hope it's all signed, sealed, delivered, and there's no more talk of industrial action come.
And we can talk about the footy.
Well, yeah, we are to an extent, but this is, I guess, it's lingering over us, isn't it? It's like the dark storm cloud ready to crack. So let's hopefully sunnier skies are on the way. We spoke about your latest club, but going back to your junior club, coming through at the Tigers with your mates, some of your heroes.
Yep.
What are your reflections from your time there?
So I was a local junior with the Tigers. I grew up in Leichhardt. A lot of people know I played for Leichhardt Juniors. A lot of people get that mixed up with Leichhardt Wanderers, that's Robbie Farah's club. So they were the rich ones. They had the clubhouse, and that was the one game you loved playing at, because you could always the friends and family could have a couple of beers there at the end of the day in the clubhouse down at Blackmore Oval. But we didn't have that. We were based at King George Oval. I used to love going down there. I was ball boy when I was young, 6, 7, 8 years old. I was always ball boy for the old boys. I'm still in a WhatsApp group with the old Leichhardt Juniors boys now. They got an A grade team, and I always said, if you can still hang in there for a couple of years, I said I'd love to come down and play a game with you. And it's funny, like the people that are involved there. Bronson Harrison, ex NRL player.
Oh yeah.
Josh Lewis, he played a few games as well. And Bronson's brother is actually the club president. So when we can get down there, he always invites us down. You get to see the kids, and it's just a real good. I love going down there. It's where you it's home.
Yeah,
and it's a place that you love. So it's obviously hard with being out of the area now. But so I came through the ranks there. I went to St Mary's Cathedral in the city, which was a lot different to where a lot of my mates went, and then. There's like about 4 or 5 of us at a period when we were about 15 years old, and we all got a scholarship to go to Holy Cross College at Ryde, which was the feeder school for West Tigers. So we all got there, we're in the system. It was pretty fun. We did a lot of footy, not as much work as what we probably should have done, but I've got a lot of mates for life from that school. And then from there, a lot of us went straight to full-time training once we finished our HSC, and I was going to train every day, like training with blokes, Benji Marshall, Robbie Farah, Keith Galloway, Toddy Payton, Gareth Ellis, and it was just, mate, I'm a footy nutter, like you wouldn't believe. And mate, it was just, honestly, it was like a dream come true. I was that little kid that I used to be too scared to say anything. Like, you see young kids now, they just, what they're like, Jimmy. They're a lot different to when we were kids. It was, speak when spoken to. That's how that was my motto when I was a kid. I would not say boo. And I'll never forget Keith Galloway and Robbie Farah nicknamed me MG. And I thought, Mark, what a mad nickname. But it wasn't that, mate. It was Mudguts. So, and it's funny, like whenever I run into someone that knows those two blokes, and there's a guy at our club, Russell Aiken, and he come into training one day and goes, "Hey, MG, how are you?" And I know he's spoken to those two lunatics, but no, it was a real honour. I got to play with those guys. They looked after me, and you know what it's like, mate. You come through the grades, like you do anything possibly you could to put on a jersey, and to have so many blokes like that around, and a lot of them won the competition in 05, and it's so funny now. You see, they're all coaching there now. Or if they're not, like Toddy Payton's coaching at the Cowboys, and they had a really good crew of players and really good, rugby league brains there. So it was a really good, apprenticeship for myself. And then especially working under Tim as well. He was, a lot of people, you can't have a conversation with him without referring back to rugby league. He's just 1,000,000% rugby league. You'd ask how your kids were, or your family's going, and then next thing you know, you end up talking about rugby league and what shape you should be playing here. So he's a good man, but it was a really good apprenticeship to learn under all those guys. Yeah,
and then you make your debut, fast track to 2017.
Yep,
the Big Four.
What that? Shambles.
The Big Four.
Shambles.
Oh, my goodness.
That was frustrating.
Not a nickname created from within, but I think one of those within the media. You're all off contract at the same time. So that's yourself, Mitchell Moses, James Tedesco, and Luke Brooks.
Yep.
All off contract. Do you regret leaving?
Oh, you could look back now and say, yeah, because, the next year obviously didn't play for New South Wales. I played for Australia. And then you look at how it ended. I signed a 4-year deal with the Dogs. I was there for, 13 rounds. And because I didn't get there till late because we had the World Cup as well in 17, so I didn't get there till January. And, a lot of things that when you have your meetings and things that are said, was completely different, completely changed. You signed at the Dogs. I signed at the Dogs under, I think Des Hasler was coach, Ray Dibb was chairman, Raylene Castle was CEO. All three of them were gone. So it was like, oh, wow, what have I done here, And you sort of start to think to yourself, and you'd know full well what we were going through because we were on 360 on the Tuesday nights, remember?
I was going to come to that. Like,
you remember,
it was 2017. The rumor was you were coming to the Dogs, and we were sat on 360 together, and you must have known. I don't know. I was thinking back, I was in a bit of a strange headspace. I was like far out. Like I thought really it was like, well, why are we trying to sign front rows? That's not where we need strength. But that's not where we need strengthening. But then I thought back to the time where the Dogs had signed Andrew Fafita, despite having like a stacked front row, and it was like, well, I don't know. Like,
you never know.
Is Des trying to change the game here? Like, I don't know. But it was. But what was that like? Because you must have known at the time that you were coming. Well, but it wasn't out yet.
And it wasn't. So I didn't really make my mind up. I tell everyone this, and a lot of people don't believe me. We played against you guys on Anzac Day, or Anzac weekend.
Yes.
And it had pretty much come out that we'd already signed, and we hadn't, mate. I was honestly like, I was just getting hardly any sleep about it because obviously didn't want to leave. I love the joint so much. I don't know if the other boys have made their mind up yet or not, but yeah, it was a really hard decision to make, and I was starting to at home. It was just like I was having that many arguments with the missus, and just because I was real short with everything, it was like when you're in that in between sort of situation, and then. When we played against you guys, never forget, it was at ANZ, or Accor Stadium now it's called, and they read out number 1, James Tedesco, and the whole crowd just booed. Then, obviously went through 2, 3, 4, 5, and they get to 6, which is Mitch Moses, boo. Then Brooksy, he got the biggest cheer because he was the one that was, so-called going to stay at the time. And but then number 8, Captain Aaron Woods, and I got a big boo, and mate, I almost started crying. I was like, what the hell? Like, I honestly haven't made a decision. And, after that, I was sort of like, oh, they don't really want me here now. Like, it's like, far out. Like, it's probably going to happen. And I remember that night, and, you get influenced by other people, and, talking to people, family and friends, and your manager and people else you talk to, and it's just like, mate, you probably have to move on. Like people. And I remember, like you said, do I kick myself that I left? Probably. Now that I've played for 3 other clubs, but it's also gave me a really good opportunity. I've got to see other systems, things what to do, things what not to do. But going back to that day, and then when we're on the 360, I did not have my mind up at all.
There would have been a time where you knew you.
It was pretty much that week, and then I told Ivan we played against the next week. We played against Cronulla at Leichhardt Oval. I think it was a Saturday night. I told Ivan and the boys on Friday, and then that Saturday night I tore my hamstring that game, and I missed an Aussie game after that. So I was always up front with the club.
Yeah.
People always thought, oh, nah, blah, but honestly, I hadn't made my decision up to probably still toss and turn, and I was that nervous to go to that captain's run session. It was that Leichhardt Oval as well. I'll never forget it. And then one of the other boys that was leaving, he jumped on the back of it and said, oh, that was heaps easier. I said, I appreciate it. But it was it's like a hole in your heart. It's like, man. And then, when you do leave, we went to the Dogs, and I think we won about 4 out of 13 games while I was there. And then I think the Tigers won 5 out of their first 6. And it's like, mate, have I made what about the decision I've made? It's just, people go, do I watch and hope the Tigers want to lose every week? No, I don't, because I've got a lot of mates there, you know, and then I had a fallout with a couple of people there behind the scenes, but I've spoke to other people at the club there now, and we still get along. Those people that I sort of didn't get along with, they've moved on. And mate, I've got really good mates of mine that are still at that club now, still working there, or blokes I've worked with at other clubs that are working at that club now, and mate, I want them to succeed. There's nothing worse than seeing your mates go poor, and I don't want I don't want to wish other people to go bad, because I want to go good myself. So you hope that it sort of relays around all the way.
Just going back to that time when you're making your decision to come to Canterbury, were you aware of the state of the salary cap? Were you asking any of those questions? We
did. Well, originally we were going to get Mitch and Teddy to go to Dogs as well. That was basically what we got told. So I was like, oh, okay, well, all of us go together then. And then literally pretty much agreed, and then Minicello reached out to Tedesco. So that changed everything. And then Des didn't want Mitchell. He wanted to get Kieran Foran instead. Yeah. So, and that's how it pretty much all happened. That's how it played out. And then you look at the pack that they had as well, like blokes like yourself. Because Des told me you were staying. So I was like, oh, it'd be really good to work on that. Because I was only 24. I was 25, 26, still learning how to become a front rower.
I think at the time there was myself, Clemmer, Tolman, Eastwood, Cassiano. Finucane had gone by then.
Yeah, Finucane was already gone.
There was like a
really good core front rowers, yeah. And
Clemmer, I would say Clement,
Clem's there, yeah. He was good. He was still coming off the bench, I think, at that stage. Or he was playing a bit of lock too.
Yeah, we sort of...
Tolan,
But I remember thinking, like, well, how, between the 3 middles that play...
Yeah.
It's a lot of money to be in your cap for middles, but 3 middles that play, there's only 81. There's only 240 minutes to be played, and I was just doing the maths, being like, well, hang on a minute. You've got probably our strengths, myself, you, Clemmer, Tolman.
Yeah,
is long minutes.
That's it.
100%. So 60 minutes times 4.
That doesn't add up.
There's your 240. So what, we're just going to do a 4 person rotation? What about everybody else on the? There's normally 2 of the middles on the bench as well. It's like, how's this going to work? But I guess, were you asking any of those questions?
Yeah, we asked a lot of those questions, but then there was also times where, they sort of said to us, if Des comes to this meeting, then he's going to have a job. Because remember, there was a time where he was almost getting punted at that stage. He
did get punted
job up before that, but remember they gave him the year extension.
Yes, yeah.
So there was, so I remember we rocked up to a meeting, and they were like, if Des rocks up, then he's going to be coach next year. And from what he said it was all going to make it work.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, how good is this going to be? Look at the pack that we're going to be playing with here.
Yeah.
And then at the time, I thought Teddy was going to be there too, and Mitchell. So I was like, oh, wow, this is going to be, Jesus, this is going to be stacked. This could be anything, yeah. So, but, in rugby league, It's a game that never stops giving. Things change.
Yeah.
And that's something I've learnt from leaving the Tigers. You could think you're in a space and you're going to be in a space for a certain period of time, and it doesn't work that way. Yeah. Things can just change at the drop of a hat.
Yeah, well, I'm just thinking back to that time. I was never recruited by Des, but I loved working for him. But I can only imagine what it was like in some of those recruitment meetings.
Yes.
I was in some meetings where I was re-signing, and they were bizarre enough. But
he's different. Brings a lot of paperwork, doesn't he?
KPI, the
little charts. Yes. And it was hard. I was a tragic Manly supporter, and big fan of the game, and just things we're talking about with him, and his knowledge on rugby league. You'd know yourself. Like, I never got to work with him, but from what I've had with him, meetings and interviews with him, he was really, really good, and someone I was really keen to work with, but it didn't really eventuate that way.
Did you feel like...
But you know what? I reckon if we had Ivan there earlier at Tigers, I reckon I'd probably stay. He was so good, man.
Yeah.
He was unbelievable. Like, I only had him for back end of the year, and, like, we were in all sorts at the Tigers. Like, we'd lost Mitch. He went to Para halfway through the year, and Teddy was leaving. I was leaving. There's a lot of people leaving, a lot of guys coming, and just the way he brought the group together, he just focused on little things. He was so good, man. And I can see why Penrith had so much success with him. He's a man's man, doesn't overcomplicate things, little things that in training that he really focuses really hard on, and just little periods of games, awareness of where we're at, and little goals and things that he wants to do throughout the game. It was something that I've took away from me the whole time. And, one of my best mates is at Penrith now, and he still says he's the same, like, goes for those things. And like I said, if they probably had got him earlier in, because we got rid of our coach after 3 rounds. The club got rid of Jason Taylor after 3 weeks. Round 3.
Yes, they did, didn't they?
Yeah, there was so much more behind the decision than just, it wasn't just that. That's why it was so much lingering in the head. And you felt sorry for him, but if they're going to do that decision, why wouldn't they just, get rid of it pre-season, and then you're not going through? It just felt like they wasted a whole year as well.
Yeah.
You get a new coach.
That is bizarre, firing your coach after
we didn't get
round 3.
Ivan till about round 6, because we had Andrew Webster, who's coach of the Warriors now.
Yeah.
He was interim coach for a couple of weeks. So it was a really weird period of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, you come to the Dogs, and results had gone south.
Yeah.
And did you feel like a little bit of a scapegoat there? Like, well, you were the new signing. And
you always do. Not that I felt. I just put it on myself. I was like, man, you want to come? You want to bring something? And
you've left your boyhood team as well.
It's like, the funny thing was, like, we lost so many games by like 4 and 6 points. Yeah. It wasn't like we were getting flogged, but we just couldn't ice the games. Like, defensively, we were really good, but we just couldn't score points. That was the frustrating thing. And we had so many good players. We had the Morris brothers, on one edge, and you throw in Clemmer, Kieran Forens. You had a really good side. But I never forget it, man. It was just so frustrating. I remember one game we played against Canberra on a Thursday night. We got beat 18-12. Come back for recovery at Belmore the next day, and we're down. The video room up in Belmore, like, pretty smick area, and then we're about to watch the video, and then we get through about 2 or 3 clips, and I think it wasn't Dean Pay, it was Mush, Dave Penner, the assistant coach, and he must have had it set up already, but he goes, I'm sick of this, we're getting so close, but I think we just need to get everyone together. And I think this period we lost 4 or 5 games in a row, and then he walks down the front, and there's like a sheet on this table, and he just pulls it off, and it was just all alcohol on the table. So it was just like one in all in here. And then I remember I walked out of there and I was just headless. Like, honestly, like, I love a beer, Jimmy, but also want to win games of footy.
Yeah.
And I was just like, far out. Like, what have I done? Like, should have just stayed. And you know what I mean? It's like, bloody hell. And then I don't know if you're going to go into it soon, but like I said, with the salary cap, I didn't realise how bad we actually really were at the Dogs at the time. Like, even when you left, they were paying a fair chunk of your wage. They were paying a couple other blokes' wage. You know, they weren't even paying Greg Eastwood. He was paying reserve grade on huge coin.
Yeah.
And then they'd offered all these players to go to other clubs, but they couldn't get it. No one would take them. And at the end of the day, they said, you know, we don't want to lose you to me. Well, that's what they said. But then if you get a club, you can go. And then
so at what stage did they say this?
This was like just before June 30, because I think we're still over the cap. And they're like, if you know, we're not going to stand in your way if you get another club. And then only 2 players, myself and Moses Mbai. And because I think Mo was on a decent whack there, so he ended up going to the Tigers, I think, for signing for like 3.5 years, 2.5 years. Yeah, so he got that deal. And then, he was the first to go. And then, they couldn't move anyone else on. And, you know, I remember talking to my manager at the time, and I had, you know, I could have, you know, he said, there's a couple of clubs out there looking, you know, obviously Newcastle and Warriors. I didn't really want to move out of Sydney. I like being around my family and friends. And then it was like Roosters or Sharks.
Yeah.
And I pretty much, I went home, had a big think about it, and I was like, oh, man, I don't want to keep moving and moving and moving. Like, I hate change. I'm a real boring person. Like, I just like routine, that's it. And then, I ended up talking to Mrs., and she's like, well, you know, if you get an opportunity, it's not going too well at the moment. You ain't really got much to lose. And I remember, like, you know, I was looking at the Roosters, look at the Dragon, look at the Sharks, and a lot of the Sharks boys I played Origin with or Australia with, you know, Wado, Big Gow, Fafita. He was one of my real good mates. We played 20s and had a really good relationship with him. You know, Arvis Seaman of Fanai, he was one of my best mates. He was down there. And then I remember just picking his brain about it. He said, mate, you'll love this joint. He goes, it's different to what we've been at, but it's a lot of old boys, but they just get the job done. And then so from that, pretty much made my mind up. And, I remember one of the days we were waiting, and then finally got you had to get the release or whatever.
Yeah.
I think they were waiting for something from Flano. I'd never met Flano either. And then I remember I had to drive. We trained at Bulldogs, had to drive to the manager's office, go back to the Bulldogs, get them to sign the release papers, and then go straight to. I had to go home first to get my passport because we're playing New Zealand on a Friday night, and this is a Tuesday. So, and then they were travelling the next day. So went straight down to Cronulla, and I just went in there and just embraced it, and just not going to go there with any, you know, if I keep tossing and turning, you just got to go and embrace it, and I did. And from the first moment I was there, it was pretty cool. Like, you just got sprayed by everybody in the room. It felt like it was like a home. So I really loved my time at Cronulla.
Yeah. I didn't realise that they'd given you that the Dogs had come to you and said, like, we need you to go for the cap.
Because
like,
the cap was...
the cap. I didn't know the cap was that bad.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what I thought. I don't really know, but I didn't know it was.
That's
like,
it.
to get rid of you and Moses at that point after they'd already, you know,
put so much into it.
Well, not just put so much into it, but already, you know, cleared a lot of players. Along the way.
It was so crazy, and I was just like, man. I remember driving home after one day at the Dogs and just parking my car at a park and just so like frustrated and angry at myself. Like, what have we done? Like, I was just like, far out. Like, it was torture at the period. But
did you feel angry towards the people that had sold you there? Like, I mean, like, as in, like, we're going to paint this vision that this is all going to be like, hey, Woodsy, you're coming here, and you're going to challenge for felt like,
and it was some of the closest people to me. That was the hardest part, you know. And do I feel that they painted that way to me because they were having battles with other people, with other clubs? You know what I mean? It's a really good lesson I learned in life, you know. And don't let other people influence your own decisions. And it probably happened a little bit with that decision I made.
But I guess for you get painted the vision. They sell you this dream of where Canterbury's going.
Well, I mean, I'm a rugby league, but I want to be the best player I can be, and you know, I got to paint a vision, play under you. You know, you were one of the best props at the time, and it was like, man, I'd love to learn under Jimmy. You know, I get to. We did 360 on Tuesday nights. I used to ask you 1,000 questions, pick your brain when we're in the studio, and I just thought that'd be what an amazing opportunity. Blokes like Tolls has been around forever, and you know, he was such a professional of the game, and you know, people just think he's work rate, but what he does behind the game is unbelievable, and just little things you can pick up. That was awesome to work with him, but yeah, you just get sold something, and the worst thing was that it all changed.
Yeah, like there's no way you could have envisaged the mess that the salary
Nah,
is
not at all.
And also, mate, I think this sometimes, like, I look back at like my own self and think, well, should I have smelt a bit more of a rat? But at the end of the day, or should I have realised this? Should I have been so surprised by some of the conversations I had when it was my time to leave there?
Well, you know, it's funny you say that.
It's not our job to administer.
That's it.
Or take responsibility. You know,
we don't know what cap is in.
You put the trust in those people to say, like, you guys manage the cap, and I'm here, and you sign me on. Again, I even think back to my own time where it's like, well, why would you sign a back-ended deal?
Exactly.
Well, it's not benefiting me.
Nah, no way.
It's not benefiting me. Like,
it's going to move you out.
It's actually, I'm doing the club a favour here because I'm taking like money. You know, anyone out there that understands, you know, mortgage repayments or friggin' what's
loans and that.
What the thing you put on your loan? What am I thinking of there?
The interest rates and that.
Yeah, the thing geez, why can't I think of this? Offset.
Oh yeah, offset.
Yeah, so you think you offset your loan, right? You know, a lot of people will be, you know, aware of that, and it's like, well, I'm getting less money in year 1, but I'm making it up in year 4. Well, that money's not working for me. So
it's like you're doing interest and then you're not paying.
I'm doing the club a favour here.
Yeah,
like I'm doing the club a favour, and I've got to trust them.
And then and the funny thing is, from the experiences that I've been through, I rang Mitchell up. You know, he's going through a really big one at the moment, Mitchell Moses, and I said, you know, as a mate, I didn't give a rat's ass what you do. I just want you to be happy. I said, when you're doing all your dealings, make sure you cross the T's and dot all the I's, because, you know, I've been
asked the
every
questions.
question. I've been through 3 different
try
clubs.
And figure it out yourself. Like, sometimes, because I guess it's a hard one for players when you go into negotiations. Every club's going to tell you they've got the best junior system.
Exactly.
Every club's going to tell you, like, this is where
we're or this is what we're going to get as facilities, or, you know, we're trying to get this bloke in with this bloke, but then when you're there, it doesn't happen. We haven't got this bloke and we haven't got that bloke, and this bloke's had to move on. So it's a lot different to, what you do. I just said to him, mate, you just do what's happy. I said, he's got a family now. You know, he's got a little girl. He's just got engaged, whatnot. And a bit of advice from me, I said, you know, you're one of my best mates. I love you. But you do it at the end of the day, it makes you happy. Whether it's if you want to go back to Tigers, whatever, or if you want to stay at Para, or if you want to go another club that's out there that we don't know that they're chasing you. So you just do what makes you happy, because one thing I've learned, don't let other people influence your own decision. That's probably what I'd tell a lot of kids this day and age. If, you know, if I get the opportunity, because that's something I'd love to do when I finish footy, is work around kids, like do pathways, development sort of systems. And I'd love to just, you know, give them an idea of what I've been through. And, you know, at the end of the day, obviously you got your parents there, but you got to be happy first, because when you're happy, that's when you're playing your best footy. And surround yourself with people that maybe tell you the truth. Yes. Not about dollar signs, it's about truth signs.
Yeah. I agree with you there, and I just segue into all the things that the modern day player has to deal with. It's, you know, the social media comments.
Social media is the best.
And you know, just touching back on like negotiations, we are in a privileged position.
Yeah. Oh no, we are.
Like,
yeah.
we are.
No.
And you know, I don't want anyone to take that the wrong way and think like, oh well, that must be a hard decision.
No, the game's giving me everything.
You know, and like, give anyone that decision to make, sign a Motta deal at the Tigers or a Motta deal at the Eels. Hey, no one is saying that isn't a privileged position.
Just want to be happy.
But you know, this is some of the issues that they face. You know, the modern day player about being lied to. But with the social media, how have you found that, and how do you deal with some of the more, I guess, negative comments towards your performance, your appearance with the mop?
I get so many, man. I get hammered on social media. It's funny because you get positive ones, you get negative ones, and you know, like if you have a bad game, you're going to get hammered. You're going to get pizzled by everyone. And even if you have a good game, sometimes they still pick out the one thing you did bad. And you know, I'm doing a bit of media stuff now as well at the same time. You know, I like to just say things how my biggest thing with the media is I like to say that talk like I'm having a beer with a guy at a pub and just give my opinion, but give my reasoning behind it, you know. And one thing you got to learn with social media and different accounts, you know, different media outlets, they don't listen to the whole story. They just grab a little one-liner. Like the other week, I think I said, you know, Ponga needs to grow up, which is, yeah, I stick by that. I hope, you know, I want him to grow up, but I also said I love watching him play. I think he's one of the best players in Queensland. When he puts that Queensland jersey on, he's unbelievable. He's always either 3 points or 2 points for his performance. You know, he's one of the highest paid players at the club, and he's the captain. And, you know, there comes a time when you need to grow up. And, you know, I've said it to my team as well. You know, we went through some dramas on Sunday, and we need to pull our heads in, boys. It's not like I just say one thing and, you know, that's it. But and then people get snippets, and then they message you, and it's like, oh, mate, this bloke's going for mental health. And I said, yeah, I understand all that sort of stuff. I've been through crap times in my career as well, like, you know, the Bulldogs thing. You know, but no one knows what you go through at home. They just see you for that 80 minutes that weekend. But the other thing is, I'm getting paid for an opinion. So I just give my opinion. It's not like it means 100%. It's 100% correct on what I say. You know, and it's like, you know, you watch, we call games together. You know, I love watching NRL 360, you know, Braith and Kenny. Like, everyone loves to hate Kenny, loves to hate Rothfield, but at the end of the day, that's their job. They've got to have an opinion, you know, whether we agree with it or not. And then that's when all these blokes or people, it's funny when you get the ones on social media that don't even have a face. They just got like a little egg and they just crush you. And, you know, I don't mind that. I can cop all that. You know, it's funny that they call me Sharon, and, you know, they just give it to me, but I reckon it's hilarious. And then the only ones I don't like is when they sort of say they bring your family or you know, your kids into it. That's the ones that sort of quite disappointing. You know, I remember when I left the Tigers, you know, people were Instagramming messaging my missus and saying like, he's going to leave you too, and all this sort of stuff. And it's just like, whoa, easy, just relax. And, you know, that's when it puts pressure on you at home, because it's not just me that's copying, it's my family as well. You know, but it's the day and age we live in.
I think that's the line, isn't it?
That's it. And, you know, other thing I try to tip up kids as well, you know, like the training photos and all that. Like, yeah, it's cool to put them up, but when things aren't going good, people are going to hem you. You know what I mean? Like, you don't just get the best of one world. Like, you're going to get the best of both worlds at that stage. So I love
the worst of both.
Or the worst, yeah, best and worst. So, and the thing is, you're going to put up photos of the game, or, you know, and then one week you don't put up the photo when you lose, they start ripping into you, and it's going to be an old training photo or old photo when you're celebrating. And where's your photo this week? You know, and you put yourself out there to cop it. So, one thing I try to tell all the young boys is just, if you can't cop it, get off it. But if you can, just find a way of having fun with it. I reply back to them sometimes. People always say don't reply back to them, and then I love replying back to people, because then they go, oh, you're actually not a bad person. So no, I'm an average Joe like you. I get to play footy for a living. That's the only difference.
Yeah, it's interesting, the social media stuff. It can be really good, but it can be
bad at the same
cesspool at times.
But I find it is, if you go looking for things, then you're going to find negative things. Like, there's so many times, like clickbait this day and age, mate, I'll say one thing and then I'll put my big ugly mug up there and there's like 150 comments underneath and it's got nothing to do with the story. It's just like, oh, you're a washed up footy player or blah, blah. So you got to read the story first. Like, but it's all just clickbait.
Yeah, read exactly what I said.
Yeah, read what I said. I said, I'm actually pumping this guy up. It's actually killing me watching him go through what he's going through. I just wish he'd come out and, you know, be a man or something, you know, be mature about what's happening. And that's just the little things that, you know, people would only read what they want to read, which is a lot of time is negative things.
Yeah, it is. But also as well, like, to put things into context, say for like, say you're playing an Origin game.
Yep.
Would be like 2 million viewers?
Oh, heaps, man. I couldn't even tell. I think overall, probably yes.
Yeah, like 2 million.
It's the biggest one. That one in the NRL Grand Final.
Yeah, so say 2 million views for an Origin game on a Wednesday. Right. 1% of 2 million is 20,000, right? So imagine if I said to you, okay, you're gonna be on social media. 99% of people are gonna be like not comment or be okay with your level of performance. 1% are gonna be off. You go, I'll take that.
Yeah, 100%.
But then
it's a lot of people,
but then switch that and go, would you be okay with 20,000 people being off you?
Well, mate, I remember.
Well, but I'm saying,
It's
like,
hard.
so, you'd think 20,000. That's a lot of people. That's
mate.
a lot of people to be off me. Even 0.01% would be no. Forget my shit maths. 20,000 people off you, or after, or like you'd be like, or criticizing your performance. You'd be like, geez, 20,000 people.
It's a lot.
That's a lot of people.
But
It's 1% of the viewers.
But that's the game we're in.
I know, but this is where perception comes into it. So you can say to a young kid, Matt, are you okay with 20,000 people coming after you, like telling you how rubbish you are? And you go, no, it's 1% of the viewing population.
Yep, it's 100%.
It's 1%.
I agree with you.
And this is where, so sometimes you can get, like, I don't know, the numbers of like messages or derogatory comments or negative comments about someone's performance, but really it's a tiny proportion
100%.
of the population. The overwhelming majority of NRL fans are really good people.
Mate, they're the best.
They engage in a positive manner, but it's those ones that unfortunately don't engage in negative behavior that get the headlines, that get the reactions out of the play. So I think sometimes the message to young people should be, look, do some numbers here.
Yep.
Here's an example from an Origin game on a Wednesday night with 2 million viewers.
20,000.
1%, 20,000.
That's if you have a good game.
Yeah.
But the thing is, what I've learned about fans, they support the club. Like, they love the clubs. Like, one week, I think last year, we said, when Nathan Cleary did the spear tackle. Like, I'm a huge fan of Nathan Cleary. I love him. He's going to be one of the greatest players in this game, in my opinion. But when you do something wrong, you do the crime, you do the time. A lot of people said, oh, he's a good kid, good this, he only deserves 1 week. So, no, well, he got a spear tackle. He got 4 weeks, and then because he had the carryover from the hip drop earlier in the year, got an extra week, which I'm fine about because that's what the rules are there for. And then on social media, I reckon all 15 other clubs love me that week, and the Panthers fans are just into me. But then the week after, I think something happened with, I think it was Latrell Mitchell. He got booed, and I was like, I don't condone the boos. Like, he's a young bloke going out there to do his best. I can't understand if you, when he's kicking a goal, try to boo him, take him off his game, but don't boo him before the game's even started and he's walking out.
Yeah.
And then next, I've got all South Sydney supporters pumping me up, and then, you got other clubs that are off you. So you just got to, if you're going to have an opinion, you're going to have to expect the backlash.
Is that hard for you because you've made some tough but fair calls, I believe, on current players. Now, as a current player, I always found that's probably something I'd dance around.
It's always hard.
But is that difficult for you? Is that something that you've just gone, I'm just going to embrace it?
No, even when I'm in a group, I just call a spade a spade. Like, if we have a team meeting, if we've done something right, that's good there. If we've done something wrong, I first put my hand up, I stuffed up in that situation. That's just how I see things as, and I think if we do beat around the bush, then, that creates a pretty crap precedent for us as a club, and then we're going to let people get away with little things. So that's how I am as a person. All my mates, or like muck around, they always say you're pretty much to the point. And it's like, that's people, they want to hear it, but they don't want to hear it. And then when I'm getting coached by coaches, I'd rather just them tell me, what I'm doing wrong and what I've got to fix. That's how I am as a person, and always try to be straight up. And, sometimes you do need a pat on the back because, you're doing some things good and you want to get rewarded. But then other times when you've done something wrong, you need to be told, all right, that's wrong and this is what you need to do to fix it. And, there's times where you sort of think, well, how hard do we go on this person, or what do you say? And I always say it, but then that's when I go back to you as a clickbait, is that sometimes they just take what I say one sentence
out of context.
But then when I give all my reasoning and, what I think behind it, they don't put that in there as well. And that's what happened with the Ponga stuff the other week. And, love the kid to death. I've had a coffee with him before with Clem when they were at Newcastle. We had one at Magic Round last year, sorry. And he was a great fella. But, I'd say to Clem if he was struggling, or like if he was doing what Ponga does, man, you need to pull your head in. I think that's a good sign of a mate. You're just trying to tip your mate up.
Yeah. You say you'd call a spade a spade. I'd probably call it a big tool. just to be.
You always got your own take.
Just to be different. With you've mentioned you like the idea of being involved in pathways, but you've got a very strong voice in the media now. One of the most likable guys in the media. Like I say, you tell it like it is. Where do you see your future going? Is media where your passion is, or is it more in the developing of the junior pathway system?
It's a bit of both, Jimmy. Like I'd love to be a coach, but mate, I've seen what coaches go through. I wouldn't want to put my family or that through it, because if you got to be a coach, you got to have a screw loose upstairs, because the amount of work they put towards it, you got no life, and everything's revolved around your players and just your systems of what you're coaching. So I find that hard to do, but it's something I'd love to be involved. I'd love to help out, like being an assistant or something. But then when you say the pathways, I'd really love to help kids. I remember when I was a kid in the Tiger system, we had a junior system called the Cubs system, West Tigers Cubs. And then I remember at that period, I was training with Chris Lawrence. He was in so it was like a junior Cubs and a senior Cubs. We were the 15s and he was in 18s. And then by the end of that year, he was playing first grade. And, we'd have times where the first grade players or first grade coaches would come down and help us. And, they'd show us through drills. So when you come through the ranks, you're pretty much learning the stuff that the top dogs are learning. And it's like, say, if you got to fill in 1 week, you're not behind the 8 ball. What do we do here? What do we do there? You already know the structures and the systems that are in place. And then from what I've learned in the game, I'd love to bring that down there as well. Like we spoke about social media before, how to handle player managers, how to handle, different things that happen at the game and preparations. I'd love to put all stuff that I know. And like I said here before, was it a right decision to leave the Tigers? Yes or no. But I've been at four clubs or up, and I've learnt things, what you should do and what you shouldn't do, all complete different systems and how to prepare yourself for a game, and just to put that knowledge on kids. And I want to teach them, because sometimes when you do get kids come up to the top grade, they just don't know, like they haven't been around it and they don't understand what it takes. So if you can get to them from an earlier age and give them that little bit of a head start, so when they do go to the first time full-time training, they know what they're doing. So that's a passion I'd love to do. And then obviously media, I love the Triple M stuff. Love calling the games with you. I think sometimes we get sidetracked a bit, instead of calling the games.
Slightly.
Especially with our old mate Maroon. He's could be off his head some days. He's a good bloke. I do love him. He is our little target man that we love giving it to. I refuse to ever agree with him. It's given me an opportunity to meet so many unbelievable people. I get to work with you. I get to work with Ryan Girdler, Wendell Saylor, Dan Gananes. I reckon he's probably going to be one of the main commentators in a couple of years, because he's built his profile up and he's up with Fox now. And you get to be at the games, and I've met so many people, and it's something I do love to do. And I'd love to be on radio. Whether it's say you do your afternoon shows or like something like MG. It's just so much fun, man. And you go in every day, you see everyone. It's not like a footy team, but it's close to a footy team. I don't know how I'd go be in an office every day sitting down 9 to 5 or 9 to 4. I think I'd struggle.
It's all changing now, though, mate. It's all like 3-day weeks in the office. Like, they've got it easy, these office.
I couldn't do it.
Mate, honestly, they're pushing for a 4-day work week. The office workers. What a joke that is.
Does Charlie come under that?
Can I do 2 days in the office, 2 from home?
Well,
joking?
The old COVID Zoom, just Zoom in.
Oh, just Zoom.
I've got a mate. I'm not going to give his name up because he works for a pretty good business. I don't think he works. Every day off, coffee, and then I rang him today. Do you want to get a coffee this morning? He goes, I'm just going for a swim, mate. He goes, I'm on call, but I'm just going for a swim.
Yeah.
I said, what? So he'll know. He watches all this podcast. He'll know, but I can't give his name up because, and his boss is an absolute legend too.
Yeah, the traditional workers, we've got your eye on you.
Yes.
We know what you're up to.
Exactly.
We know what you're up to. Mate, just a quick one, just going over your rep career. You were part of that drought-breaking 2014 Origin Series win, but also you won the World Cup against the Poms in 2017 in one of the greatest games I've ever been a part of and I've ever seen in rugby league. This is I'm asking this question. I don't like this question. Which meant more to you?
it's so hard to say which meant more because, you know, I think they won 7 series in a row, the Queenslanders. And at the time, it was only my second series for New South Wales. So I remember when we won it, at the time, it was sort of like, oh, this is mad, you know, we won Origin. But when you looked across the room, you're seeing, you know, your Paul Gallons, your Robbie Farahs, you know, Ryan Hoffman, Bo Scotts, Greg Birds, and to see how much joy they got out of it, you know, Anthony Watmouse, mate, they'd never won a series, you know, and I think the only one that won a series was Luke Lewis, and he was on the wing, and I think it was in 2005. So it was just the room, like, get goosebumps talking about it now. The room was just, I've never been in a room like just the excitement. You know, afterwards, it was one of the big nights we've had, but that meant a lot. But then it's also hard because, mate, you're playing for your country, you know, in a World Cup. Not everyone gets to play a World Cup. I was fortunate enough to play that. Like you said, that's to this day, it's one of the hardest games I've ever played. Remember the opening kickoff? We spoke about it before on one of these shows. You know, your head hit Clemmer's forearm accidentally.
He was coming for me.
Yeah. I remember Big Sammy Burgess was on a mission that night. I've never been hit so hard in my life. And, you know, you talk about moments in games. We spoke about it, you know, Joshy Dugan on Callum Watkins, you know, and I think it was like the 65th or something minute. And just the relief after that game because you spend a long time for those camps. I think it was a 7-week tour. And, mate, to play for your country and do that, that was an amazing. I can't split them, Jimmy. They're both enormous.
Well, either way, mate, they're two absolute standout and highlights from your career.
Yeah.
And something that I think you should look back on and be incredibly proud to be a part of, mate, because you were fantastic in both the Blues jersey and Australian jersey as well.
I was saying before, it's something you don't really think of too. Like, it happens while you're playing. You probably think about it more when you retire.
Yeah.
Now that I haven't played Origin for so many years and played for Australia, you know, it's like, geez, man, and then you look at some of the names in that team. It's like I can't wait to show my kids when they get older. I was like, mate, I'll play with this bloke, I'll play with that bloke. You know, unbelievable. So, you know, you do pinch yourself, and then the thing I love about those is like going back to the old boys days. You know, you go back to the True Blues dinners, and when the Kangaroos have an old boys day, and you just get to see other blokes in the room that have worn the jersey before you, and mate, what an honour.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it? It really is.
Exactly.
Hey, we'll wrap it up pretty soon, mate. We've just got our 3 questions that we ask each and every guest this year. And this one I'm quite interested to hear. If rugby league didn't exist, or you hadn't have made it, what do you think you'd be doing now?
I know exactly what I'd be doing. I would have opened up a coffee shop and pouring coffees for a living because I love just chatting with people. So,
are you a decent barista?
Nah, shocking. But I would have learned it.
So you'd be like the front of house. Oh, you reckon? You reckon it's a skill you can pick up?
100%. I want to, mate. Any day off, I'm just at a coffee shop. I just love chewing.
Maybe front of house.
Mate, I just want to get a hole in the wall. Start off with a hole in the wall, and then I'd even love to do it when I retire. But the only thing is, there's so many coffee shops now. Like, it's just so hard. But I love my coffee.
Mate, Chinatown's got loads of Chinese restaurants, but they keep coming.
You know what? I never thought of that. You know, but you know,
imagine having that sort of attitude. Do you want to open another Chinese restaurant? Well, there's loads of them.
Let's do it. But you know,
I don't want to open a Chinese restaurant. But if you're going to be put off by the sheer number of cafes,
I could be different. But honestly, I'd love to because I just love chewing the fat with people and just getting to know what everyone else is going through, what they're up to.
See, I like it in certain context, but there's sometimes like I can just imagine that my lack of patience sometimes be like, "Will you just make this coffee, mate?"
Nah,
like get on.
I get a good read for people. You can tell when people like some are real agitative, and you, all right, mate, I'll pump your pickle out. See you later. And then you look like a cat man, likes to have a chat.
So where would you be situated? Because you look at the good cafes.
I've got to get near a bus stop.
You got the till. You got the till guy.
Definitely not till guy. I want to be the one behind
I reckon you get more chat at the till.
Nah, I'm going to be the good... during happy hour, like when it's busy...
Normally there's 3. You've got the till, you've got the the espresso,
the coffee
and
man.
then you've got the milk.
Nah, I'd do milk and coffee at one time, mate.
Mate,
come on, man.
this is gonna be
Less pay on wages, brother.
Oh, well, you know what? I'm not going to Aaron Woods' cafe
Yes, you will,
during
'cause
not at peak time.
I'll look after you.
Yeah, but not at peak time.
You'll probably come with Latsy and
if
you'll get free coffees.
If you can't hire, I reckon you need 4 because then you need someone on food.
But it just depends how big my shop is too. Because at the start,
mate, you can't be doing espresso and milk, mate. It's just not going to work.
So originally, my plan is me to do the coffees and that.
But hang on,
Mrs. to do the sandwich press.
Me to do the coffees and that. What do you mean? Because you need 2 people on the machine.
Nah, just coffee, one. Boom.
No, mate, you've got to. I pulled your business model apart already. There's
I've got a lot of
any lenders out there that are listening, don't lend to this man to open up a cafe.
No,
mate, you've got your system wrong. You're gonna
just think of the marketing. I can help you with the marketing. We'll get good marketing stuff.
You're efficient.
We might even do a buy round out of there one day.
You know what? We'll start. We'll order a coffee, and by the time we're done, we'll have it ready. Because efficiency, you are not going to be known for. But that is, I like the idea of you'd be a barista. Yeah. Well, it's something different to you. For a lot of people, it's their life.
Yeah, exactly
it's
right.
Not, it's not different. It's not different for them, is it?
Well, mate, I count like coffee every day. Every day, I love going to different coffee shops, just meeting people. You
don't have a regular
I do have certain spots. Cronulla, when I was at Cronulla, I had a spot down there. A spot at Wollongong. Got a spot in Peakhurst. You know, got them all over the.
Have you been to that little one in Peakhurst where they've got all the bits of Lego, all like the Lego things? It's in Peakhurst.
What's it called? Not the corner. At the corner.
It's like tiny.
Oh no, I haven't been to that one.
Mate,
no.
Check it out. The guy actually pretended to spill a coffee on me.
Oh really?
And he filmed it. Anyway,
never been back.
I don't.
See, I wouldn't do that to you, Jimmy.
No, it was funny. Yeah, they've got all like these bits of Lego. Really cool, eccentric place. I have been back, but it's just not a place to go very often. We've digressed quite a lot.
Have we? What?
In career or life. Sorry. Wait there.
Yep.
Reverse. This is what you've done. You've distracted
Sorry, mate.
me. Not good at distraction.
That's what I want to do and have a coffee shop.
This is it. Look, you're not efficient. Sorry. Look, we've got the efficiency.
Mate,
we've got the efficiency here that we've got to stick to the program. I think about this a lot. Like sliding doors moments that happen, but in your career or life, what's had the most amount of consequence? Do you think? And you ever think if it had gone, I went right, but what would have happened if it had gone left?
I've got 2. Obviously, I'll go for the first one. When I tore my hamstring off the bone, as a kid, I was 18. I was almost playing first grade. I was at 20s at the time. You know, when you're a kid, you think you're invincible. You know, you go out and you're probably on the beers 2 or 3 nights a week. You don't worry about your recovery, your preparation. You just think it's all going to happen. I tore my right hamstring off the bone, missed the whole season. And that was pretty much just a big, like, all right, if we're going to be fair dinkum about it, we really need to look after my body. So, you know, I got into all the stretching, watched what I eat, you know, my prehab, my diet, everything, you know, to training. You just got to do it. Like, I was probably just doing what I had to do. You know, when you get in there, they give you things on the board, what you just had, like just the bare minimum. And that's what I try to, teach a lot of kids this day and age is that you can't get away with just doing enough. You got to do a lot more. And that's really probably helped my career because, I'm not the fastest player. I'm not the strongest. And then, you just got to work hard in little 1% areas. And that's what it taught me, I had a lot of time to reflect because I couldn't run for about nearly 20 weeks.
Wow.
Because we didn't get the operation. We just let it scar up because I was so young. So there was a lot of scar tissue there, which was very hard, but it's just what I had to do. And then from that, I learned a lot about myself and, learned a lot of what to do for my game to progress. So that was one. And then the other one's definitely, leaving the Tigers. I've copped a lot of flack, a lot of heaps of stuff has been said and done from that moment. We spoke about it for nearly half an hour today. So, if I had stayed at Tigers, what could have been? But I made the decision to move, and I didn't play Origin the year after. I was lucky enough to get back in the Aussie squad, but yeah, if I stayed, would I have been in Origin longer or Australia, or would we made the 8 at Tigers? Who knows?
So going back to that first one, Mudgee,
Yep.
You're saying that even though it was a negative thing to happen to you, and you're in a lot of distress from a torn hamstring, but if you're saying what life would have happened had you not have torn it, you think you would have gone a different path and maybe not learned the lessons that taught you?
I was a big pisshead. I was just going to drink too much. Now I speak to boys, they think I love a lot of beer. Like, I love a beer, but I know my moments for it now. When to pick and choose. I'd always be out, whether if it was drinking or not. I'd love to go out, and you got to know when to stay home and when to look after the body. Like I said to you before, you just got to know to pick your moments. And like I said, if I hadn't got injured, I probably would have kept getting away with everything that I was doing. And like I said, you go that way. But then because I got injured, I had to really focus on my body. And there was moments where my mates would go out or go away on trips where I knew if I had to stay at home, looked after it, trained, get myself right, good nick for pre-season, then I'd go the other way. So it was a huge learning curve that year.
Yeah,
and because like a lot of people get that when they're like 26, 27. I got it when I was 18 because I got told I might not run again if I don't look after my body. I wouldn't be able to run at a good pace. Not that I'm quick anyway.
No, I like that. I like that answer. Final one. Most interesting person that you've met?
Most interesting person I've met a lot of interesting people in rugby league, but probably it's hard to knuckle down one. But you ever met Bo Ryan?
Yes.
Different, man. Like he's super smart, but super weird at the same time.
Does he intrigue you?
He does, man, because I remember when I first come to grade, he was already up there, played a few years before myself, and he just got these, like, if you touch this, he's got to touch it, or, like, say if we're going to sit down on these couches, he'd have to walk behind all these, like, he'd have to come the longest way, to walk behind the pool table, walk behind the lights, just do all weird stuff, and I'll never forget, like, his memory is unbelievable, and he can come up with things so quick. Like, I never forget, we're at the Sackville pub one night, one of the first team piss-ups I've been with the Tigers boys. He gets on top of the tables, gets a microphone and starts rapping for the next 20 minutes. And it was like he was at a concert. He had everyone in the pub up and like, Bowie, like, it was unbelievable. There's never a dull moment with Bowie around footy. He was awesome. When times were tough, he thrived on that because he just loved being the center of attention. He took your mind off everything. But yeah, he was a really good bloke to be around, and it's no surprise that he's hosting all these shows. And when he did the DJ Yellow or whatever it was, he made his own song on Channel 9. Mate, he's unbelievable. Whatever he comes out with next, it doesn't surprise me one bit. And there's also another bloke that does intrigue me a lot is Luke Lewis. He's really weird.
He's been on the podcast.
He's just, mate, I didn't know if he was telling the truth some days or if he's lying. Mate, I used to walk out of the room and I just didn't know what to take from him. He's definitely a different human.
Well, thankfully, we've got those interesting people in our lives.
Exactly.
Without them, the world would be pretty boring. Woodsy, mate, thank you so much for joining us here on the Bar Round. Really enjoyed this conversation with you. Wishing you all the very best with the Dragons this year.
Thanks, mate. Hope we can turn it around.
Well, mate, I hope that you use what's going on at the moment as motivation and an opportunity to quieten people down, because there's no better feeling from that. And all the very best for the future. I'm sure we'll be seeing you around the studios of Triple M, calling a few games and winding up Maroon along the way. He's really not happy at the moment, is he, with that coffee machine being down and the vending machine. The only guy that puts up a note.
A4.
Yeah,
I've seen it.
Like, don't worry about everyone else that works in this building. Like 5 days. I just told him, I say 5 days a week. It's more like 2.
Why doesn't he prepare and bring something from downstairs?
Yeah, no, it's not like there's no. And he knows they're broken.
Yep.
And there's a multitude of places.
I feel sorry for Charlie at half time. Makes Charlie go upstairs and go get his own coffee. I walk upstairs and make my own cups of tea. Maroon, get on board. Use your legs. All right. Cheers, Woodsy. Thanks for listening, everybody on the Bar Round. Take it easy. We'll catch you soon.